Am I on? No, I hope I'm on. I'll give you a little bit of background why I got involved with UFOs. I'm a native Denverite. I was born about 20 blocks from right here. And back in 1958, I was in the Air Force, and I was assigned to Edwards Air Force Base, and I was also assigned to the flight line as a airborne radio radar technician, working on all the latest, quote, test planes. One day I was out with my Jeep, and I was running out to the X-15. And the X-15 at that time was the craft that came in. It didn't have wheels, it had skids. And went clear out to the north end, and I had to go out and do my post-flight on all the electronic equipment. As I went out there, nothing particular with the craft. It was there, I did my work when I got through, but I looked at my Jeep, and I had about 20 miles on it. And they would take my Jeep away if I did at least 50 miles a day on it. So I just threw my Jeep, put it on automatic, and went on out north. And there are several hangars in the north end of Edwards Air Force Base. The base is 60 by 90 miles long, to give you an idea how big it is. The runway at Edwards is about 22 miles long. It's paved about 5. When I went out there, I run across, I'm 19 years old, very naive. I run across a hangar that was open, and inside was a disc-shaped craft. I didn't think anything about it, but I did drive over close and look at it. The only thing that I noticed, and I recall at this time, was that it was a disc-shaped craft, but it didn't have any seams. Everything else I worked on had seams. I didn't think anything about it, went back into the base, and I talked to my buddy who lived in the next room, who was a base photographer, and I says, tell me about the disc-shaped craft up there. I said, I'm working on the X-15, I ought to be able to work on that thing. He says, you know about that? I think you better go in and see the CO. So I went in to see the CO, and the CO gave me this kind of a debriefing. He said, if the public would happen to see it, you are to tell them it's an ion-powered craft designed by Sikorsky that's not flying in our atmosphere, but to be used in outer space. Now, my clearance at that time was top secret, and so I didn't think anything more about it. I'm gung-ho military. I was subsequently transferred, went overseas, and went through the service and went into guided missiles and a lot of other things. Come back out, went to Colorado School of Mines, majored in geophysics, went into business, and I have been a successful real estate developer. So I'm fairly independent at this point and do whatever I want. About 5 years ago, I was building a house for a friend of mine in Aspen, and his maid came in with a book, and the picture on the inside of that thing was almost identical to the craft that I saw at Edwards Air Force Base. I had to get a hold of a copy of that book, and it was written by a couple of people called Lee and Britt Elders in Phoenix. Well, I wrote a couple times, about 3 times, no answer. I just grabbed an airplane and went on down. Went in to see Lee and Britt, and long and short of it was that they were broke, as typically I find in most of the people involved. And he said, I really can't get you a book, there aren't any more, and this kind of situation. And he said, but what we'd like to do is put out a new book, volume 2, to show more pictures of the Billy Meier thing. Now, I'm mostly a businessman. In Phoenix I was going to anyway. I was building office buildings and motels and restaurants down there at the time. So I told Lee, I says, really, it's been about 25 years since I've been out of the service. I don't know why the government hasn't released any of these things, but I'll do my bit. I'll finance your book. You got the money. I said, but one provision, I want my money back. That's all I'm asking, just to share. Well, got the book out. It was very successful. It's called, well, I don't know if it wasn't successful at the time. It's the volume 2 of the picture book of the same thing. You'll see some volume 1s out in the hall. When it come time to get my money back, I had some problems. So the next thing I said, well, wait a minute. And when I involved in the thing, I didn't want to get involved with the case itself particularly. I was just merely an investor. In order to get any further involved in the situation, I decided I'd better get my money back. I filed a lawsuit against Mr. Elders. We have subsequently settled the matter, But the long and short of it was, to get my money back, I had to be in the business of selling the damn books. So I put my wife into that business, so you know. And further to get involved, I kind of really got involved with the thing. I wanted to find the rest of the principals, because during this period of time, Mr. Elders had taken me to introduce me to a gentleman in Los Angeles. He didn't take me, I went over there, who had spent $750,000 making a movie on this case. So I thought that was all right. The information had to be put out. The movie, to me, would need a little bit of work, and so they needed a little bit more money, and I said, fine, I'll do that too, until I started to see all the legal ramifications. And the next thing I did was call Lee back, and I said, well, I better go check and see how much of this is really true. And so Mr. Elders says, you can't go over there. And I says, what do you mean, me can't go anywhere? So the next plane, I'm in Switzerland. This is the first time I get over and I meet a man who's never heard of me, and I've been putting all the money up for all this stuff, right? And we find out that in the UFO community, per se, we have a lot of people that has, quote, controls. They don't want the information out to the general public. The information that I found out over there was so profound that I thought I should share some myself with you, and subsequently went down and met everybody else, all the principals, as many people as I could. But the real story comes from Billy Meier in Switzerland. Now, what I'm going to show you today are a few of the several hundred slides that Billy has and he's taken. One of the unique things about this particular story is that Billy didn't take all the pictures. He had other people take some of them, had lots of witnesses. The last time I was over there, I was standing outside in the morning. I got up and walked around, and a neighbor farmer come over and he says, started talking to me, and I asked him, have you seen anything out here recently? And he said, well, why don't you come with me? And he come over and showed me a footprint. And a footprint there, that's a big footprint. And he says, there's a man who was 7 meters tall standing here. So I confronted 7 meters, that's 21 feet. Now, he's gone. I ran back in and I talked to Billy. I said, 7 meter tall man out there. And he didn't just shrug his shoulders. He didn't mind at all. Didn't pay any attention to it. Didn't faze him like it was an everyday occurrence. And he says, I was really more concerned about the little people. So Billy brought out a little tiny footprint. Had a plaster cast about this big with all kinds of little footprints about this big. He says, you've heard the story of leprechauns and things? He says, that's really what they are. So I looked at that. I didn't have any more verification other than the plaster cast of the footprints, because Billy was going along, unfortunately, or fortunately, taking fairly good notes. Now, how much of that information is Billy's input and how much is it of the ETs? We're kind of deciding at this point what is right. Now, what I'm trying to do is put the information out to the general public and let you decide. So we're in the process of translating the notes from German to English, and then we'll share them with people that are interested in it. There's 2,000 pages of notes. Now, as I go into these slides, and I think I'll get off the stage now and let you look at these things, I'll explain to you these particular ones. When we get through, you can ask some questions about them. Lights down.
Do you have the remote thing? Don't you want it?
Yeah, I want this one.
No, that's not it.
This is the remote for light.
No, that's the remote for it. Don't you want to run it yourself?
No, you have somebody else over there running it.
Well, yeah, is that better for you?
Its cord's not long enough.
I got 40-foot of cord.
Oh, well, that's fine. You want to do that?
Well, go ahead. Turn it.
This is Billy Meier currently. Billy's about a year older than I am, which puts him about 50, 51 right now. This is the man that his entire life has been involved with direct contact with ETs. Okay, the next one, please. Got to go there. There we go. Only reason this is one of the pictures. You know, everybody see it in the back?
Raise it up if you can.
Yeah, let's get it raised up. This particular disc craft is similar to the one that I saw when I was at Edwards Air Force Base.
Let me get that extension. Turn the lights on, please. Let me get this extension cord on so you can do it yourself and you don't have to ask for this slide. You can run as fast or as slow as you want. I'm sorry, I thought we had this darn thing on there.
Can't do it. I'm going to show you all of them.
I mean, the one you saw.
No, it was smooth. It was totally smooth. I might have another picture of come along on this thing.
Was that originally a slide or a strip?
That's a slide, but it's been about 6th generation, this one, Stan. Now, when I go along with these slides today, you're going to see several variations, and the reason why I got involved with more and more in the Billy Meier case, because of the information that they have contained within their notes, they give us some clues when we're talking about propulsion, what their motion, what they want everybody else to want to happen, and yet they're observers of what's going on. Let's see if this works.
This one
Goes forward?
forward. Yep.
Nope, the other way. Which way is it going?
Your slides aren't dropping.
No.
Really?
Lee, you got that other tray?
Oh, there's one. Let's see what happens now.
They were going backwards, were we?
Well,
No, they're too thick. This tray, you got an 80 tray, 80 slide tray, that other black one you had.
That's supposed to have 140.
I know, but they're too, in a 140 tray, they're too wide. I mean, the slides are too wide to drop on the 140.
You use that tray all the time, don't you?
yeah, that's Kodak.
That's his tray.
Well, let's see what it does.
Just have to flip it.
Here's a picture of 3 different of the craft in the same. Where's my? The pointer? Yeah, I was wondering what happened to it. These craft that you're looking, all 3 of them are of different sizes. This particular small one is a drone craft. This particular one and this one are both occupied by 2 people. They supposedly, and I'm taking this supposedly, maintained a base about 30 miles out of from where Billy was at, in the mountains. Billy lives about 35 miles out of Zurich, Switzerland. So if you go over there, it's not too far from it. It's a little town called Hinterschmidt-Rudi. This is some more the craft. What they did was allow Billy, who has one arm, to take pictures, and they posed a lot of the craft. Now, a lot of these pictures were taken with other people present. There are just numerous witnesses to everything that was going on. I don't know what happened to that one. Oh, it's behind the tree, but it's out of focus. I don't know how to focus the thing from here.
This knob here is
Okay.
focus.
I'll get you a better one. One of the first things that you want to check at when we were looking for saucers is the indications of what they do when they land physically on the ground. Now, the next couple of slides are going to show you that when they hit the ground first, this is particularly the area in the ground. This is a few weeks later, or a week later, that happens. There's a swirling motion of some kind. And I talked to the people over there. All kinds of bees and bugs and everything else show up on it. But it does leave some kind of residue. And I didn't have equipment to look at. In fact, I didn't see any of these over there myself. I'm just looking at the pictures. I did talk to other people that had spent a lot of time with and taken soil samples. Now, this is what happens to the ground after they're gone. Now, this right here is Billy before he has his beard. And he's sitting there measuring this particular depression that was left into the ground of the craft. Now, the next slide is going to show, I think. That's Billy with a beard. It's another ongoing deal. There's 3 circular patterns that are going on, which gives you an indication there must be 3 driving powers at that point. All with this circular motion. Now, this is an interesting picture because you see this round circle. This is where Billy lives. This is his farmhouse. Now, they're not going to land right here unless there's a lot of other people there, right? Within the farmhouse, there are about 7 people, and they're all kind of like you are. If you've got something that's really secret and your neighbor's going to go over, you're not going to say a lot about it because you can't explain it. But a lot of them have seen the landings and everything that's gone on. In a few minutes, I'm going to show you some spectacular pictures where the craft is landing right there. And you get them so close that you can tell and see whether or not it's a Chevrolet or a Mercedes or whatever, you know. Is it going?
It's going, but they're not dropping.
Well, let me see. Now, I skipped a couple of them, but let's go to this one. Since where time is fairly limited, it's bad. What I wanted to show you on this particular one, this is an honest-to-goodness ray gun. It's a laser-powered pistol. You see it right here? This is also the girl that's running this. That's as much as she would allow to be photographed. And that's the latest in outfits now, whatever it is, 5,000 years from now, so get a load of the color. One of the problems that we identified with this thing, and we're talking about a problem, that we looked at it, if you take a look at the nozzle end of it, it's almost the same color as the fence. Doesn't mean anything because I went over subsequently and saw the results of these crazy deals. Now you see that hole? That's through this tree, which is about 15 inches. It's perfectly round, and you can see how the burn marks are around it. That's one. Whoops. There's another one right there. You got to see the next one. I want to show you the next one. Let's try the next one.
Back it up. Back it up. Try it again.
Okay, one more.
Lights are hanging out.
Well, I got the wrong tray. I don't know how to make that work. You want to try to switch them real quick because I think maybe you want to. We maybe don't have enough time to do that. We'll just. Yeah, okay. There's only about 25 more slides, so it only.
I'll have it in there before you know it.
Hand him the tray. You got another tray?
Here's
No,
my tray.
no, use the other one.
What do you have, George?
Oh, Henry said he could hand feed them. Just put them. Just go ahead and put them down, and as you go ahead, I'll demonstrate them. Well, you find out the directions on it. This is another picture of the ray gun that they had. They're just showing you. Huh?
All the way in. There you go.
Okay, now there's another picture of the ray gun, and all you're seeing now is just I call it just their laser gun. Yeah, she is an extraterrestrial. She's approximately, according to the information they say, they're about 5,000 years ahead of us technologically. See the craft? I mean, you're getting a close-up. The latest variation that they have of this, because they're continually evolving their own, is about the size of a cigarette pack now. And they use that as a defensive weapon only. They go to a lot of planets, they quote, that are on various stages of evolution. Now we're back here to this tree with the same hole in it. Now are we getting it right? Yeah, I'll show you some pictures in a minute. Now there's a bigger one. Now this tree is about 24 inches across. Same hole. Now these holes are done just because they were just pointing them out like this. Billy was playing and he was with Shemyasa, which is the girl, and I'll show you her picture in a minute. But it was basically having a little bit of fun with it and shooting 30 feet up in the air. There's places up there that you couldn't get any place unless you had somebody's holding a big ladder and all the rest of it. But this is a little close-up that I could take. Interesting. Okay. Pop it out, that's it. This is probably the most famous picture that we have, and this is a VW microbus That's a little trailer behind it. This is a car. We have a moving picture with the car running right along behind it. And this is your craft. Now, everybody that wants this picture, I have several of them over here on the desk that you can have. It has our address on it, so if you're interested in receiving the notes a little later, we'll be glad to send them to you. You can just write to it. But I have this picture for everybody that wants one. Okay? This is the same craft, and that you saw there that was above it, it's sitting next to a tree. According to the Pleiadians, and this is where they claim to be coming from, that they come next to trees because of they work on they have two pulses of propulsion that they use. The first one they use basically on the magnetic resonance of the Earth, and the tree appears to ground their craft so it keeps it from wobbling. So they come next to a tree. You'll see a lot of pictures that I have of them next to trees so that it's perfectly still. Pretty close-up pictures. I'll tell you a little bit about one particular tree. There's the craft again in behind the tree. Remember, these pictures are taking because we wanted to show pictures not just in thin air, something else. He always had to have some kind of a background in them. He had some in the air, but most of them had a background to give you some depth in what they were involved into. How's that? And close to the ground. Whoops, where are we going this? Keep plugging. See the tree over there? It looks like an ornament, again, everywhere that you... Now, I want you to take a look at this picture real quick. When we're talking about flying saucers, they've been in all recorded history. When you get back to your house sometime, everybody has a Bible, read Ezekiel 10, and you try to tell me if that's what he's trying to describe. Now, first of all, it's not a Pleiadian craft, because the Pleiadians just have developed this. This is the latest model. They call their crafts beam ships. They ride the magnetic beams through the universe. But the new ones, this craft right here, has a new technology which they developed, and they still kept the name beam ship, but it does work on a new drive called tachyon drive, and they do their planet supposedly is 350 light years away, and they do it in about 5 minutes now. It used to be 8 hours of travel.
Yeah, it used to be 8 hours.
Used to be 8 hours of travel, and it's about 5 minutes at this point. Okay. Now, I haven't talked to Billy for about 3 months, but because he's being bombarded by everybody. Now, remember I told you I was going to show you a picture of the craft? Now, anybody seen a closer picture of the craft on the ground? This is in front of his house. This is a two-man craft. Remember, the other one you saw up there was bigger. They have all kinds of sizes. I didn't bring some of the slides along. I have some pictures where they had maintained what they call a mothership on the other side of the moon just to keep it away from things.
This does no damage to the building.
Doesn't do anything. Billy,
About the balls?
the little balls in them appear to have what they use in creating this magnetic wave. Now, we have this on tape so you can listen to the magnetic wave, the frequencies vibrating. But they create a magnetic disturbance that's on a vertical axis. We do know that much about it. They wouldn't give us all the propulsion. But it's running on a vertical axis that goes on up for around in our Earth's atmosphere. From that point on, keep going, I'll show you some neat pictures. Now, that's the same craft, but if you'll notice, it's about 2 feet off the ground. Now, a good friend of mine took these pictures and examined them very carefully, and his name is Wally Gentleman. He won the special effects for 2001 Academy Award. And Wally said, we were talking about making a movie, and he said, well, I could do that, but it cost about another $350,000 to $400,000 in special effects to make it done. He says, but a one-armed guy in Switzerland with no technology is not going to do this. So we spent some time going over most of these pictures themselves to validate that whether I could recreate it myself. He doesn't have anybody around him that has that kind of technology. There are nobody within the group at all over there that has anything past a high school education.
What did the break?
Pardon? The break was in between the units. Now here's the same craft, and you're going to see it now. It's about 5 feet off the ground, starting to go.
Were any
No. Just the man that was there. I'll tell you some strange incidents that happened the last time I was there. That's just another horizon picture with the craft up above.
It's the same craft.
Mm-hmm. There's a disc-shaped craft again. This is the earlier variations, if you want to call it variation 1 or 2, whatever model is. Again, next to a tree, so you can get an idea. Billy lives in a beautiful part of Switzerland.
How did he get this picture?
With his camera. They said and posed him. Some Yasi would come back and she says, I'm going to take a picture. She was communicating with him. He'd go out. She'd spend 5 or 10 minutes.
But that's taken from above.
It's taken on the side of the hill. That tree is down below.
There's a tree on the left.
There's a tree right here, see it?
Oh,
Okay. I didn't bring video with it. I do have video. Yes. We only have 20 minutes or 25 minutes. That's all I was doing. Billy would set down a tripod, and he would put his movie camera on. This particular photograph is of another variation of the craft that has gold around the side of everything else. I don't have the one. It shows a French Mirage fighter that made about 20 passes against the craft, burned out all the electronic equipment on it and everything else.
On the craft or on the fighter?
On the fighter. Oh, not on that. What they tell us is they don't care about anything. They put a force field around the craft so that if you would shoot a missile or a bullet or anything else at them, it would automatically deflect it or go on with someplace else or come back at twice an hour. It doesn't bother them. They have to have that to go through space because there's a lot of particles in space. There's the same craft. Is the fighter up there? I can't see. There's the fighter up there. Same craft. This is over a town now, so you imagine there's a lot of people that see these things, and you're going to say, I don't see them. Now, these are close pictures. Okay, now there's Billy aiming the camera up there so you can see it. Now we're coming up to some of the unusual ones. Billy is being visited by a lot of ETs. What they tell us, when I was asking them about over there, and it appears in the notes, everybody's brain works like a liquid crystal, like a little vibration. And that we're all putting out waves, like if you're walking down the room, automatically you're picking up somebody else's thought, or you can feel them behind them. Anyway, you're emanating these waves throughout the universe. Everybody is. And it has its own, what they call a mind card, its own frequency. Everybody's on their own. And they tune into it. They being whatever our extraterrestrial visitors are. They appear to be coming from all different types of physical dimensions as well as other physical dimensions, non-physical. This particular light, which is referred to in a lot of places throughout the world as this was right over outside of Billy's window. He was taking this one. This is a craft that was coming from the non-physical, in other words, into electrical energy, down, condensing into matter, because they go at such a speed, they convert matter into some type of an energy and transfer it from one place to another. Let's go to the next slide. There's that same energy at night. It was so bright. Here's his house again. This is his barn. All the little vehicles sitting around that they run around with. Pardon? No, it didn't. Maybe they said something on the video. You talk about Yowie, the Japanese video, or the American one? Okay, here's the craft. Oh, you can see it. It has ribbon. It never did condense into physical matter. So what they say is, and we all look at it, matter goes back to light and back to energy again. So what they have done is come down to light, could not fine-tune their instruments to bring it down into the physical dimension. There it is. That's another one of the craft and light. Go ahead. This, to me, is one of the most incredible pictures that we have. This picture was taken by Billy's friend, who's from Austria, was over there. And Billy was standing outside. Remember those lights? If you look at this thing, this is Billy with his hand up in the air, and these are the sparks and light around him. Now, I don't understand the energy that's involved in doing that, but that is a localized energy. It's totally surrounding Billy, because there's his 2 feet. You see his arms up in the air. That's just car. That's just a light. The cars that were parked there before, you saw on the side? That's where they are, right in here. So you give you an idea where this is happening. This is happening in his backyard. He has 3 children, his wife, and about 6 women around there doing everything. He's got a real good deal. Okay. He doesn't have to do much. He kind of keeps hibernating at this place. Under the next one. This is just another picture. There's a wood pile here, and then the craft up on the side of the hill. This picture was on the front of some of the Pleiadian books. Okay.
Last picture.
That was it?
Yeah.
Let's stop.
Where are the ones of the
Oh, well, that must be in some of the first ones then. Let's go back and get a couple of the other ones. Yeah, about the 3rd, 4th one or 5th one. We'll show you some pictures.
Are they pretty equal to men and women?
Who's they? The Pleiadian, the first, now, this is the only picture that Semjase would allow with just a drawing of her. Because she is walking among us. So he doesn't want to be recognized at this point. What they say, and then this is if you're coming back into some of the information, Billy has a mission. His mission was to have the most, what they say, the most and the best of pictures than anybody in the world, which I feel he has. The second thing that he has was to give what they call the spiritual information. And that's another story. It gets really into some heavy information that would change things a little bit. Not really, but it gives a different perspective on the creation. They call God, quote, the creator or the creation of all things, and it goes throughout the whole universe, and just because somebody's black, white, green, or whatever color, we're all created by the same creation, and that's what they look at. They cannot, they being the Pleiadians, understand our religious system. They were working within the structure trying to help people like Jesus, if you want to look at it that way. The real name was Emmanuel, according to them. Disseminate the information that we are all part of God as such, rather than separating it. That's part of his message, and Billy took on the task of telling the world that here I am, I've got contact, they don't want to talk to you because of something in his crystal that he's sending out, and he's being visited by all kinds of people. Like I said, when I was over there, that man that was 7 meters tall. Another thing that Billy is tuned in somehow, and I haven't described this. Let's go to the next picture. I was out taking pictures, and I went up, when I took those pictures of the trees, now these two are the closest they're going to let us have to the real picture. Those were taken inside a craft, but that's all they'd allow. No, that's a most. How old are they? About 300 of our years, the equivalent of about 27. They go to school for 100 years. And they learn each language. They're walking through us throughout all of the different cultures that we have, and that's the way they treat us, different cultures. And they're observing, watching with us. They feel that we're going to commit hara-kiri and blow ourselves apart, and they don't want this to happen because we're treading ground in their backyards, what they say. Well, I think we're getting some of the same ones now. And no, they are human. They tell us that each of the different cultures, you can turn the lights on now, each of the different cultures, quote, on the earth, was brought from different planets within the universes. There are more than one universe. It's an infinite amount. The 2 girls that we showed you on the craft come from the Dal universe, which is the next universe over. When Billy was taken aboard his craft, when he went to the end of the universe, which appears to be in an oval, they had to slow the craft down, and it kind of went through a membrane like a big soap bubble. Then it went into the next universe, is open again, infinite. They say the biggest thing that we have, we're slaves to our bracelets, and we don't understand time, but we will. The biggest problem that we have is pollution, and they don't like coming around because the pollution is getting worse and worse, and they say we have to address that. I have 2,000 pages of notes. Now, how much of it is Billy's and how much of it isn't? If you read the notes themselves, there are a lot of profound information. Some of it, as far as we are determining, could be just, BS. Where's the source again? Most of this information has been suppressed because of money controls. I mean, the man that went over to Switzerland and got the exclusive worldwide rights would sit down and elected what should be given to the public and what shouldn't. I have all of the notes, both in German and in English, and we're working on the translations now.
Are you glad that we had George bring this information today? Thank you.